So here you can see that we're starting with an empty chart. So we have absolutely no data left in here. You can see some panels along the right here. So we have our filter panel, we have our visualization panel, and we have a data panel. So this data section here holds the data that we have pulled in from Primavera P6. You can see it organized into activity data, task data, baseline data, and our project data here. And then we also have our snapshots, which we are using in these slicers up here to tell us which snapshots we want to be looking at. So the visualization panel here is how we're going to be building our chart. So right now we're on the Build Visual tab of this panel, and you can see that there are a multitude of empty data fields here. So Power BI allows for the easy drag and drop of data into these data fields. So it makes it very easy to make these charts pretty quickly. So to start, we're going to want to pull in some activity data. So you'll see the second data field here is labeled task. So if I go into this task column here and pull in, for example, task name, you'll see that the chart is now populated with the names of each task. But as we have no duration information yet, you'll see that the taskbars themselves are just dots. To fix this, we're going to add information to the start date and to the end date here. And you'll see that these build out our taskbars. Next up, we're going to want to add our baseline. So this one is just as nice and easy. We're just going to go into the task baseline section here, pull in our end date, and pull in our start date. And you'll see it immediately get filled in with these baselines here. So we can add labels to our task and baseline bars if we'd like. So we can do that by scrolling down here to the label and baseline label fields. And you can pull in anything you would like here. For example, in that previous chart, we had pulled in the BI-GB task label that Sue filled in. For the purposes of this example, I'm just going to pull in task name, and you'll see them immediately get filled in here. And for our baseline label, I'm just going to pull in task ID just as an example, and you'll see them get filled in down here. Just above these label fields, you'll see there's a % completion field. So if we pull in our completion data, then we can tell Power BI how far along we are on each of these tasks. So as this is our initial snapshots, none of these activities have been started yet. So our chart is starting to take shape, but you might notice our activity table here is looking a little bit flat. So let's fix that by adding our WBS hierarchy. So I'm going to scroll back up here to this parent field. So this is where we choose how we'd like to create our hierarchy. So you can use different criteria here, but we're going to demonstrate just a typical WBS hierarchy. So I'm going to pull in project name, WBS name level 1, and WBS name level 2. And you'll see that this creates a hierarchy in our activity table, which also affects the placement of the taskbars. So you can also change the way that each of these levels are sorted. So this is controlled further down the list if we go down to parent sort order. So you can, to sort the different layers, you're going to want to pull in data in the same order as your hierarchy levels in the parent field. So for example, the first level of the hierarchy in the parent field is project name. So if we were looking at multiple projects at once that I would like to sort, for example, I would pull in project name to put those levels in alphabetical order by name. At the moment, we are just looking at the one project, so there is nothing really for this tool to sort. But next up, we want to sort the first WBS level. So for example, if I put in WBS name level 1, you'll see that the first level is now sorted alphabetically. And then WBS level 2, and now you'll see that the second level has also been sorted alphabetically. You can also sort the tasks in here with this task sort order. So again, I'm just going to put in task name here, and you'll see that they are now sorted alphabetically. So you can also add custom date lines in this data field down here. We're just going to put in our data date, and you'll see that appear along here. Going back up to the top of our list here, you'll see this field called Is Task Critical? So this is what tells Power BI which of our tasks are critical using our P6 data. So I'm going to pull in critical here. And you won't see any immediate changes here once we pull that in, but that will change once we go into the customization section. But just before we customize, we have a couple things to finish first in building our chart. So scrolling back down, I'm going to add some data into our extra fields section here. So this will add columns to our activity table along the left, depending on the data added, so that we can see important activity data at a glance. So I'm going to add 2 extra columns. I'm going to add original duration and responsible discipline. But again, you can add more if needed. So the tooltips field just down here allows you to add information that will appear in a little dialog box whenever you hover over a task. So for example, if I put task ID here, and then I hover over one of these tasks, you'll see that the task ID appears in this little dialog box. So last thing we're going to look at in building out our chart is our milestones. So you can see that there are 2 data fields for milestones. We have milestones and key milestones. So the data in the milestones field will determine whether we put the milestones in the chart or not. The data in the key milestone field will determine whether the milestones will be displayed along the timeline instead of within the chart. So I'll put in milestone type here, and you'll see that they get filled in here in this milestone section. And then I will put in key milestone, and you'll see them appear along the top timeline here. And again, these can all be customized, as we will see right now, actually. So let's take a look at customization. So we can do this by going over to our Format Visual tab here in the Visualizations pane. So I think the first thing we're going to do here is fix up our activity table. So if I go into Category Labels, I can adjust the font size. I'm going to make it just a little bit bigger here, so make it a little bit easier to read. I can also adjust the font family and the font color, but for now, I'm just going to bold it just so it stands out a little bit. Then I'm going to move on down to this hierarchy settings section. So this is where I can control customization for each level of our hierarchy that we've built. So I can adjust the bar colors for each level. And as an important aside, this will adjust the parent bars, not the task bars themselves. Those are adjusted elsewhere. So right now, we don't actually have any parent bars displayed on our graph. But if we did want to display them, we would just go back up to this general setting and click Show Parent Bars. And then that will show the parent bars and their baselines as well. And then we can adjust them using that hierarchy setting. But for now, I'm just going to keep those off and go back down to our hierarchy settings here. So I'm going to set up our activity table to reflect our company colors, similarly to the snapshots that we were looking at before. So we have a level 1 background color. I'm going to turn that to black, and you'll see that change over here. And then, of course, we're going to want to make the text color white, just so it's a little bit easier to read there. For our second background color, let's make it a nice gray. And for the third background color, we're going to use our emerald green. And we're going to change our text color to white here, just to make it a little bit easier to read. So now you can see the colors are looking a little bit better here. As an aside, you can also adjust the colors and fonts for these extra columns if you wish. That can be done in this extra fields category right here. But for now, we're just going to leave them the same as these other guys. So these colors are looking better, but our activity bars could still use some work. So we're going to move over into task settings right here. And you can see here, this is where we will adjust bar colors, baseline bar colors, outlines, label margins, etc. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to change the critical task color to red. So now you'll see that any of our critical tasks will automatically be colored red. Next up, I think the only thing I'm really going to do here is change the baseline outline color to yellow to match this one here. And then I'm going to change the baseline height to 0.1 just to give us a bit more space here. And we're going to adjust this margin so we can see a little bit more of our chart here. So while we're actually on the topic of changing these taskbar colors, you might remember that in previous snapshots we showed you, the taskbars were colored by responsible discipline. So this can be done by moving back over to this build visual section here and scrolling on down to task category. So you can group by different types of data depending on your needs, but I'll be using responsible discipline today, just as our example. So you'll see these top two immediately change color, but you might notice that these red colors have stayed the same. That's because the critical coloring that you're using will override the task category coloring. So if you want to just color by task category, you're going to have to move back up here and remove your critical data. And then you'll see that it is now being colored exclusively by task category. So again, these colors can be adjusted. If you go back into the format visual section, you'll see there is now a new category called task category settings. So this has now appeared because we've put some information into that task category field. So from here, you can adjust the different colors of your bars to make them look exactly how you like to have them. And again, they are being adjusted by these responsible discipline here. So you can see the civil right now are orange, project management is blue, fabrication is purple, etc. Another way to control the look of our taskbars is by using a legend. So if I go back into our build visual tab, I'm going to remove our task category, and I'm going to go back up to this legend field. So this creates a legend based off of the data that you're going to pull in. So for example, if I pull in task name here, you'll see that a rather big legend here is now created, sorting all of the activities by their name, or coloring all the activities by their name. So putting any kind of data into this field will create a new category in the format visual section. So if I go back into here, you'll see there's now a legend category. So I can go into here to adjust the different kind of aesthetic things that I would like to change with my legend. So I can change the position. I can put it along the bottom here, for example. I can change the name. Right now it's just set by task name, but I could adjust that if I wanted. I could also change the text color and the text size, as well as toggle it on and off. And then again, each of these color categories can be adjusted as I so wish. Because I did use task name, there are a lot of different options for each task name. So looking at our
Amy,
chart,
what would it look like if you use the category again?
If I go back into category?
If you use the category instead of the task name.
Oh, yes. So if I were to do that, then I can now color it by responsible discipline as well with our legend along the bottom here.
Okay. Okay, so from P6 perspective, that's taking the code value in putting in the legend information. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, so we're getting, our chart is coming together very nicely. So the next thing I wanted to look at is adjusting these labels here. So our task labels are looking pretty good, but our baseline labels are looking pretty small and hard to read. So we can adjust this under our data labels section here. And here you can see we can adjust the color of our task label as well as the color of our baseline label and the font family for both. And then we can adjust the size independently. So if I wanted to make the baseline font size a bit bigger, I can now make it 8 so it matches the size of the task label. And you can also do all kinds of different changes here. Like for example, if I wanted to put my task name inside the bars, I can do that. I can also adjust where exactly in those bars they are. So I can put them in the middle. I can also put them along the right. And it just gives you quite a lot of different options in terms of changing things around. So your chart looks like how you want it to look like.
What if they don't want any title on the baseline at all? Because it's sort of going already with another activity. Can you just remove that?
You sure can. So you just go down here to the baseline label and remove it, and then it's all gone. You can also do this with the task label if you don't want these labels on here.
Okay, yeah.
So next up, we wanted to look at milestones and how to customize them. So at the moment, our milestones up here are looking pretty small, and they all look the same. So if we go into our milestones category here, you can see that we have the option to adjust font style, size, and color, as well as the shape and color of each individual milestone, including our baseline milestones. So for example, if I wanted to adjust the first task milestone here that Sue has categorized for me in P6, I would adjust it to maybe be size 11, make it a bit more readable. I can change this text color if I so wish. I can also change the color of this specific milestone shape. So let's say I wanted to make it orange. And it also gives you an outline option. So I could make it orange if I don't want to have an outline show, or I could change it up depending on what I want that outline to look like. And then I can change my shape. So you'll see there are a ton of different shape options here. For example, if I wanted to make it a circle, or if I wanted to make a big diamond, a little diamond, there are tons of options. We even have a rhombus here. But I'm going to leave it as a circle for now. And you can also bold these. So now that just makes it stand out a bit more. So you can see that this one is the task milestone versus the baseline milestone on top here. So now if I wanted to adjust our baseline milestone, let's make it 10, make it a bit easier to read. I can again adjust the text color, the baseline fill and outline, but I'll leave those as yellow for now. Just make it easy to see that it is a baseline. And then again, I can adjust the shape. So for example, I can make it into a triangle so it fits nicely with that orange circle we have there. And you can do this for each of your milestones. So as you can see, there is quite a list. I won't go through changing all of them right now, but they can all be adjusted the same way I just showed this one. And if you wanted to get rid of this date here, you can do that by going into your top axis milestone section. And you can change your date format, position, the max rows, etc., or you could just turn it off. So we're almost there, but our timeline is still looking a little plain. So moving into the timeline section, you'll see there are a lot of options along here. You have the option to pin it to the top of the screen, so it's not going to follow you down whenever you scroll, or you could let it follow the screen down depending on your needs. You can also change the text color, the background color for each tier of this 3-layer timeline, as well as the scale. So for example, if I wanted to use our company colors, I'll make the top background color a nice light gray, our middle background color black, and of course that means we need our middle text color to be white. And then our bottom background color will again make our emerald green. And then, of course, we want our bottom text color to be white, just so it's a bit more visible. And then you can adjust the unit height and unit width, depending on your needs here. And you can adjust each time scale individually. So for example, right now we have it set for year, month, and week, but we can change it to, for example, year, quarter, and week, let's say starting Monday is the first day. And then you adjust the width as needed. And then you have your timeline nicely adjusted there. So there are numerous other little changes you can make that we won't go over in detail here, just in the interest of time, such as the ability to change the look of your custom dateline and other adjustments. The main thing I wanted to do to change, or the last thing I wanted to change, is our title here. As you can see, it is a bit unwieldy, and there's no way anyone will remember that. So we're going to go into General here, and we're going to change our title. So for this example, I'm just going to call it Safety Project New Chart. And you can see it appear along the top here. And of course, it is all adjustable and customizable. So as you can see, in these charts, we've only shown one project at a time, but you are able to display multiple projects in one Gantt chart, as well as multiple snapshots of the same project.